Hello, Internet, and all the old people out there, who I assume are my listeners. And I use old in almost a jestful way, because deep down, I don't believe I'm very old at all at 63. Deep down, I'm not going to feel old until my last decade, which hopefully will be at about 100, because I intend to live till at least 110. I mean, I'm hoping 120. I'm wondering really if I'm unique in this desire to live for as long as possible, because I have such an inquiring brain, and I'm in bed a lot. I'm in the four-poster bed all winter, pretty much. Apart from pole dancing, I've just done a pole class. Oh my God, the pain. Guys, I'll tell you about that in a minute. I do so much work in bed, anything that I have to type, and I even compose music in bed. It's just become a way of life, I think. And that's why I force myself to do pole dancing every day, because otherwise, I can see the muscle waste if I don't do anything. It's less bad in summer, because summer, I'm out on my push bike and I'm going places and doing stuff, meeting up with mum more and all that sort of thing, going out for coffees and what have you. But in the winter, I really struggle with it. I struggle with the cold. I don't want to go in the music room and practice. I'm having to force myself to do practices at the moment because of the cold. And I guess that's why when I go and look after mum, her place is, I think it's about 30 degrees. I mean, it's awful in summer and fall and, spring, but during the winter, it's actually really nice. And of course, the elderly do feel, don't they? Their bones hurt and things like that. Anyway, I'm digressing. I wanted just to talk about really, when you get to being our age, if you try and do things that you don't like doing, there seems to be some sort of sensory thing. It's almost your body saying, no, that's really a bit too much. Let's take things easy. I'm guessing that's where it comes from. Now, I've, up until recently, really, maybe today, I don't know, maybe a couple of days ago, or maybe since Christmas, I've been toying with this idea that the reason I don't enjoy practicing is because I'm filming it and turning it, monetizing it, basically trying to monetize it. And the reason I stopped drawing is because I'm trying to monetize it. I'm trying to make my animated series on YouTube. I'm trying to show everybody, this is what I do, this is what I do. It's just screaming. I mean, that's all it is, isn't it? It's actually screaming into the ether, and in the hope that somebody will sort of notice you. And I've been doing that for a decade now. And I decided 10 years ago that I needed to pretend it's actually about 6 years ago, but I needed to pretend that I was sort of reborn. I was maybe 20 and hit the road as if I was a 20-year-old. And I really liked that discipline. So I was thinking, what would my 20-year-old self do now with the wisdom that I have? Because my 20-year-old self was doing absolutely zilch, being a punk in London and going to gigs all the time. That's all we did. So, I didn't want to repeat that. And I had all this regret, guys, this kind of disappointment, self-disappointment, self-loathing. Why did I waste so much time on booze and fags and men? Why did I do that to myself? I gained nothing. It didn't educate me other than to say, don't do that again. But it took, 40 years. 40 years, 40 years to figure out that you messed up royally. So I thought, right, I'm going to start again. I'm going to have this sort of mental attitude that I'm 20 years old, or even 18, but I rounded it up to 20 because I decided I'd have a gap year before going to university. So I would spend some time honing my craft. So that would be my like my university, and then maybe topping it up with further study. And I do feel very much that I've done that. I've learned how to run a business. It's not a successful business yet. I've branded myself. It's taken a very, very long time. I've had to have so much patience in myself and belief in my own work. So as far as I can see, I'm at a level now after 6 years. This is the 6th year. And after April, it'll be 7. I'm at a level now where I think I'm qualified enough to do things like write books about composing music. And I've I've got my pedagogy, which I've just launched. And to make art for a poster company. I've just started a poster company. So all these things, I feel now that I've done the groundwork, and the groundwork is that's taken so much out of me, so much energy, so much so that everybody said I had ADHD, right? Everybody, the closest people to me, my daughters, you've definitely got ADHD, Mum, and you're autistic. Definitely, definitely. So I went to I applied to the doctor to be referred for an autism psychological report and an ADHD. And I had my ADHD one last night, and she told me there and then I do not have ADHD. And I thought, when she first said that, I thought, oh, that's weird. How do I feel about that? And I thought momentarily I was disappointed, because it's quite interesting. My brain had told me that a positive result would be a good thing. Do you see what I mean? I talked myself into that scenario, if you like. And when you get told it's a negative, it's a bit like being told you haven't fallen pregnant, or do you know what I mean? It was something really weird happened to me momentarily. And then I said thank you and all that, and I'm still waiting for my autistic test. She did say she feels that I'm autistic, and all these things that I talk about are pointing to being autistic. So I thought, well, yeah, I mean, that's what I thought. I didn't really think I had ADHD, because the thing is, I overfocus, I don't underfocus, and that's a complete contradiction. So I told my daughter, and she said, oh, I don't believe her. I thought, well, it's funny, isn't it? But sometimes the people closest to you don't know you very well, especially if they've left home and they see, your life, your lived experience through a different lens. Anyway, after I sort of got used to the idea, it took a couple of hours, mind, I thought, well, what this says actually about my behaviour and my obsessions is that I just work really, really hard. And I can't keep still, and I can't not do anything. And that's what I've been trying to do for the last 6 or 7 years. Apply myself, focus. And I've been really disciplined about it. Although I'm a bit scattered about the skills that I've honed, or, the skills that I've really built up. But to an outsider, they seem unconnected. So, it might seem on the surface, but actually, if you're inside my head, you would understand that I learn very easily, that I focus very, very strongly, that I don't daydream. I mean, I can get a bit sidetracked, but I'm not a daydreamer. Anyway, what was interesting about it was she said, if I had been an unruly child, or a child who was flying around the room, I don't know if those were her exact words, it would have been a different story. But because I had no memory of being like that up until 12, she didn't agree that I had ADHD. So, and that was really interesting, because I was a very conscientious student as a child. I was petrified of my father. I wanted to be studious. I wanted to apply myself. And that's what I do now. I still do that. That his discipline has become my self-discipline, if you like. And, the way people think of me as being obsessive, it's just because I work fucking hard, guys. I'm always working. I love working. However, today I was doing my pole dancing, and I was thinking about, setting up the pole dancing school for older people. And it's just not convenient at the moment. It might be convenient, later in the year. It might be convenient next year. But that's the sort of thing that I can do until I'm about 80. So I'm not in a rush for that. But what I am in more of a rush for, and what I'm applying myself for, is the writing of the music pedagogy. That's really important to me. And then I was thinking about, my practices, and how when I film them, they become intolerable because you're not really practicing when you're being filmed. You're actually thinking about so many other things. What do I look like? Is this coming over correctly? Are people going to understand what I'm trying to say? Now, my motive at the moment is to do all this, but to do it in writing so that I can publish books about it, and maybe with diagrams. I don't actually need to sit there playing any of my instruments. It's really not what I want to do. And it suddenly occurred to me, what's happening with pole dancing and music is I don't want to make something that I enjoy as a hobby financially motivated. That's the crux of it. That's the absolute crux of it. So, I've set up this poster design place, and the idea of designing posters is for money, but the idea of making art isn't for money. And the actual art I make is so indulgent and so much richer and more fascinating. And my performances, my self-motivated performances in front of the mirror when I'm practicing my instruments, are also a thrilling experience for me because they're a private event. And so, drawing's a private event, and the satisfaction afterwards of making something truly beautiful is incredible, and I don't need to monetize it. Do you see what I'm saying? So I've sort of really flipped everything over and understood now, and I think it's taken me 63 years to decide this, that, some things in life are your own and should only be your own. And I don't consider myself an amateur musician, and I don't consider myself an amateur artist, because actually I have, professional parts of that. But the things that I was trying to monetize over the last 7 years, are not the things that I want to monetize. They are the things that they're almost sacred, sacrosanct. They're something that belong to one person, to myself, to me. And it's such a good feeling to have come sort of around to this idea that I've become good enough at many things, learning and perfecting for the last however many years. Anyway, it feels so good to have reached this decision this year, because I was really floundering at the beginning of the year thinking, I need to do this. But there comes a point when you've left university and you've done the further education and you've become an accountant, or you've become, a doctor or whatever. There comes a time when you know your craft, and now what you're going to get is experience. Well, I don't really, because I'm 63, I don't really need the experience that I would have needed at 22. So it gives you a massive head start. You've actually got a massive head start on so many people out there in the world. Now, I don't want to, restart my life in terms of doing anything that I've never done before. I don't want to be a prime minister. I don't want to go into politics. I've got far too many skeletons in the closet for that. I don't want to, become a world champion pole dancer. I just, I don't. There's nothing grand that I want to do. There's nothing big. And my ideas over the last sort of 20, 30, 40 years have become less and less grand. And I think it's a really good thing, because the grand ideas are the ones that they're going to kill you. And they're not going to work. And I still have massive dreams, but they are tempered now with the reality, not of what my capabilities are, but with the reality of what I like. The things that I actually want to do. What is pleasure? And I'm writing a book about pleasure, by the way, for older people. So I'm really thinking about all that at the minute. So yeah, it's quite exciting. Anyway, I've run out of time. Speak to you later.